Hey, welcome to Dirty Shirt Workshop. I got a new used truck. This is a 2006 Dodge Ram 3500 heavy duty. It's got the Cummins 5.9 turbo diesel in it. This thing is a really straight, awesome truck, and I got it dirt cheap. I didn't tell you how cheap I got it for, because you'll get mad. This is a former rental unit. I changed all the fluids in it yesterday, and pretty much all of them came out clean. So it's been really well maintained. Everything's straight on it. I can't believe how clean like the frame is. It's not all rusted up or anything. There's only a few problems with it. The muffler came off there yesterday. I took it out for a shakedown run, hit a big bump, and it got loud. It's been patched on there, so that isn't right. The interior isn't super awesome. Got a little tear in the seat here. Seat cover will take care of that. It's been smoked in, so I gotta steam clean the heck out of it because it's kind of stinky. But all the radio and all the heater controls, everything works. Mechanically, it's completely sound. The high and low range of the transfer case work, two-wheel drive. I smoked the tires like nobody's business, but you know, there's no weight on the back. All the tires are brand new. Why would someone put brand new tires on a truck before they sell it? You're gonna find out here in a minute. Nothing special under the hood. Just the usual. Yep, it's a diesel engine. Got all the filters changed in this yesterday too. Antifreeze, transfer case fluid, transmission fluid, front and rear axles. So there was one problem with this, a real problem, but it's actually not a problem for me. But do not trust vehicle history reports on the internet when they say no accidents, because if the cops weren't involved, there wasn't an accident. And if you see between the bumper and the hood there's a little gap, and then you look at the side of this on the bumper. I looked at pictures of this truck on the internet. And this curve is just supposed to keep going here. Instead, this bumper's ahead a bit. So this thing, I'm pretty sure it got in a wreck because of the way the bumper is all bent up. There is a big dent right here. And then right behind the wheel, on the fender here, and the door, there's a dent. I'm not worried about those. I ain't gonna fix them. I might paint them up so they don't rust anymore. The last piece of the puzzle is that there's no spare tire, and it has a brand new tie rod and a new drag link under here. So I think what happened is somebody that was renting this went off the road with it, maybe blew a tire and that happened, or they ran something over or just went off the road, didn't pay attention, and broke that wheel, maybe, who knows. But it certainly messed up the front end, so that's all been repaired. I took this out on shakedown run yesterday. The thing runs like, can we say that on YouTube? We'll say it runs like your mom. We'll go with that. Yeah, your mom. It runs real clean. It doesn't smoke. Not even any black smoke when you're on the floor with it. It doesn't wander, it drives straight, so whatever damage happened in that accident is completely repaired. Beyond the muffler, I had to replace all the parking brake cables. I got that done yesterday. The reason I had to do that was the passenger side cable, which runs right here, had actually, you could tell it had been caught between the leaf spring and this bumper, and it had been smashed a couple times. So I'm gonna tie this back to this fuel tank mount here to hold that up. I've got a flatbed ordered for this thing. Well, it's not ordered. I put a deposit on one that's in stock. After the 4th of July holiday, I'm getting lined up to get that installed. So that'll be done. The only thing left I have to talk about on this video, I'm gonna show you how the parking brake adjuster works on this thing, because it was kind of a bear to figure it out. And once I figured out the trick to it, it's super, super easy. By the way, I love the design on these parking brake cables. They're really easy to change, besides once I figured out the adjuster. The other thing is I'm going to show you a quick tip on how to keep your plugs for your differentials, your transfer case, transmission, any drain plugs free and easy to remove and not all crusty. So we'll show you that, and this one will be over. This is the parking brake adjuster. So one of the cables hooks in here on the front, and then it's got this long threaded rod with this nut that hooks to the other cable back here with the clevis. So I'll give you a close up here in a minute. So to adjust this thing, you're supposed to have the rear brakes adjusted, set this thing up in a certain way, and then tighten this nut. You're supposed to use a pencil or a marker and mark things too, which is fine. I actually got that out of the Chilton book. No endorsement, but I love Chilton manuals. They're good. But the problem is 13mm nut, you can't actually get a wrench on here, and you can't turn it because of the shape of this cavity. So it's really befuddling on how the heck do you actually tighten that screw when you can't get a wrench on here. And even if you had a long deep socket, you'd need one that's like 6 inches long, and then this piece of this bracket that holds the brake cable actually would interfere, and you wouldn't be able to get the socket on anyway. So it seems like one of those impossible puzzles. All right, so I'm going to show you the other half of this here now. So this is the other brake cable where it hooks in, and then it's got this basically this rod here that bends around, and this piece is flat. Okay, so what you can actually do to make this work is, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this, but you put yourself a vice grip on here. The 13mm wrench will fit, but use a vice grip, it's easier. And then you can jam a flat screwdriver in on the nut and actually be able to turn things. Okay, so first thing we do is we get our vice grip on here. You don't need to horse it down super tight, but you want a good grip on it so you don't lose your plier. Okay, then you put your screwdriver in here, and if you're trying to tighten this, you're gonna put your screwdriver on the side to the outside of the truck. If you were gonna loosen it, you put it on the side towards the frame. Okay, so you just put that screwdriver in there and twist it a little bit, and it holds the nut in place. And my plier isn't tight enough. Now all of this is predicated on this being clean. You're gonna have to make sure that this rod is very well clean. You take this thing out of here, put it on your bench, put some lubricant on there, run that nut up and down a few times, make sure it's good and clean. All right, let's get my screwdriver in there, and then release the screwdriver, and then you can back the plier up. Okay, you can get in there and you can get another bite. It takes forever, but it's actually pretty easy. Let's see if there. I just found a new part of the technique too. You're going back, put the screwdriver on the threads. It keeps the bracket from turning back on you. So that's pretty much it. You just jack around with that for about 17 hours, and pretty soon you'll have taken enough of this nut that your parker brake will work properly. Again, this isn't the primary means of adjusting this. It's just part of the procedure. It's just really hard to do, which is why I wanted to show how it's done here so you could see that. Next thing I'm going to do is the same thing I'm going to do for all of my transmission plugs. I'm going to put grease on this so that it doesn't corrode and it doesn't get filled up with dirt. So I'll be right back to do that. So I'm just using standard gun grease here. I'm going to get this thing turned around a little bit better where I can get to it easier. There we go. And I'm just going to fill this void up. I actually got this idea when I bought my green Dodge pickup. I had bought that in Scranton, Pennsylvania off of eBay. I went and picked it up. As I was working on that thing, I found out the entire underbody was coated with grease, but it didn't have any rust on it. So it seems like, at least in Pennsylvania, they use grease as an undercoating, but it worked really, really well. So I'm going to put some grease on the back of this threaded rod too, because again, you don't want these threads to corrode, because then you aren't going to be able to adjust this thing. Okay. And it's real easy to just wipe off a little bit of grease with a rag and have all of your joints lubricated and ready to go. So this here's my transfer case, and these are the two plugs for it. The drain and the fill. Now these were a little difficult to get out actually. This whole truck's pretty clean underneath, but these were difficult to get out because the threads had corroded a little bit. So I'm just putting a little grease on here. So what I'm trying to do is two things. I'm trying to cover up the threads so that they won't corrode, and I'm trying to fill the hole where you're going to put the tool. This one's a 10mm hex. Okay, I like to write big text like that on things so I can find what they are without having to get tools 98 times. Okay, so this is the same thing. In a few years, when I need to get under here and change this transfer case oil again, I'll just wipe this grease off, stick that hex in there. It'll push the rest of the grease out of that hole, and this will just whiz right out real easy, no problem. So I'm going to get that done on my axle plugs as well. The transmission's an automatic, so you just, take the pan down. I wish they would put drain plugs in automatic transfer case pans, but they don't. Also, another neat thing that I found on this truck while I was working on it yesterday, you can get reusable gaskets for the automatic transmission. It actually says right on the pan for this automatic transmission, use reusable gasket number, blah, blah, blah. The filter I bought came with a regular paper gasket that you're supposed to put on there. But I just reused the reusable gasket, torqued everything up real slow and even like the book says, and it worked just fine. I also found reusable gaskets on the front end and the rear end, on the axles, on the pumpkin. So that tells me that the company that had this truck and was renting it out definitely was doing the maintenance and intended to do the maintenance. I wouldn't see the reason to put on that reusable gasket if you weren't going to do that, right? So the normal maintenance schedule on this, you only do the axles at say like 90,000 or 100,000 miles. But if you have severe duty service, which it's going to be when you're renting it out, right? It says you're supposed to change your axle oil every 30,000 miles. So I suspect that's why they would put that reusable gasket in, is because they're going to be changing it all the time, and it saves them a pile of time whenever they change that oil. All right, I moved over here by the welder. I got my batteries disconnected, ground clamp on here. All I gotta do is weld it up. Should be a piece of cake. All right, that's all I'm really going to do this weekend. This truck's effectively road ready. Next Friday, I'm going to hit the salvage yard. I got a list of things I'm going to need to get here. I'm going to look for a spare with a tire, if I can get one. I'm going to look for driver's door handle, since this one's takes a couple tries to get it to go. I'm going to get a filler neck and a cap for the gas. So when I get the flatbed, they've got that. I'd hate for them to just, you know, have to take an extra day because they got to run an auto store or something. This has got airbags on it, and the tubes, they're just open air here. I assume they were hooked to something. And then the other thing I see is on the fuel tank, there's these vents on top. I don't know exactly if they're vents. I assume they're for the evap system, but I'm not sure. So I get to the salvage yard, I'm gonna crawl under one of these trucks and see if I can figure out what that stuff is on one where it's not missing, and see if I need to pick up anything else for that. So that's pretty much it. I'm not doing anything else on this for right now. Thanks for watching.